I just want to follow up on something because I mentioned the World Baseball Classic, and some of you, and I don't blame you actually if you say like, will you quit worrying about this? I don't think it does do anything bad. Just mentioning that it is a concern because we know this because of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. So, and also the fact the Cardinals have 13 guys off their 40-man roster. That's a lot, and as the great commish pointed out, we're talking about some of their primo players too. We're not just talking about kind of end of the bench guys. They got their two oldest starting pitchers in it. They've got their first baseman and third baseman in it. Pardon me. They got their shortstop in it. Who else? They got the Canadian muscle man in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Who
looks great, by the way, according to most reports.
Yeah, he does. Everybody looks great. They got Newt Barr in it. I mean, it's just you just go keep going down the list. Got some relievers in it. I don't know, man. I really do, and I just so we understand each other. I mean, I really, really enjoyed watching the WBC the last time it was held in 2017. But I think I have a curious mind, and I wonder, like the fact that there's 13 Cardinals. Hopefully they'll all come back to camp in great shape and no harm, no foul, no injury, and totally healthy. That's the dream. That's the wish list. Because you never want to see guys get hurt, especially if they're not playing for their own team. And I know they're playing for their countries. I'm not anti-patriotic. I'm just saying. There's a lot of baseball teams paying a lot of money to a lot of these guys that are going off to the WBC. And I think they'd like to be able to have these players actually be able to perform when they get back from the WBC. That's my point. So in the most recent WBC, multiple players suffered injuries during the competition. The list included Miguel Cabrera, Didi Gregorius, remember the utility guy, Martin Prado, the Marlins, pitchers Drew Smiley, Seth Lugo, Roberto Osuna, the reliever, catchers Salvador Perez. All but Cabrera and Salvador began the season on the injured list. Gregorius, who is a shortstop, he played second base in the WBC. He strained his shoulder. He missed 27 days of the regular season. Smiley had to go on the 60-day IL with a strained flexor tendon. He never pitched at all in 2017 for the Mariners. Lugo missed a chunk of regular season time with a partially torn UCL. He was out for 84 days during the regular season. He was pretty important to the Mets. Prado had a hamstring and a knee. He missed 139 days. Osuna was fortunate. His WBC injury, which was a neck, cost him only 10 regular season days. Then you have these cases that don't fit the category entirely, but the great Felix Hernandez, the Mariners, he competed in the WBC and didn't complain of anything, but in his very first start of the regular season, he tore a groin muscle and missed 100 days. Now, was it because maybe he was pitching before he was ready to really turn it loose? I'm talking about during the WBC, and it made him vulnerable to injury once the real game started. I don't know. Salvador Perez tweaked his back during the WBC. He later missed 17 days because of the related pain, and then he played through additional discomfort pretty much the entire season, even though he had a pretty good year. But it wasn't a fun ride for him. He was hurting. Cabrera, the future Hall of Famer, hurt his back during the WBC. He missed 2 weeks of the season, but later in the year, in August, he told the Detroit media that he played hurt for basically the entire season. And he said, quote, "Since the World Baseball Classic, when I hurt my back, I can't get it out of the way. It's something that I deal with every day. I'm not going to stop playing or make an excuse. I'm just got to try to do my best." So, and there were some others, but I think you get the point. And there were some studies done, believe it or not. There was a study done by Washington University in St. Louis, but this was in 2017, late in the season. And what they found is that players that participated in the WBC they had a higher rate. It wasn't by like some huge, like, kind of amount, but on average, they missed like 4 more games during the season than players who did not participate in the WBC. So it's a complicated issue, but I'm just saying, man, I don't care what team you are. When you have 13 players from your 40-man roster participating, I'll just be happy when those fellows return to Jupiter and they're all okay.
Yeah, that's a big hold your breath moment if you're any team, but Cardinals especially with that many guys. I mean, you're holding your breath. Don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. Don't pull up lame if you got one of your pitchers, on the mound. I mean, that's why they're getting paid to win ball games over the summer, not this exhibition thing that baseball wants to be for fun. You just put up Felix Hernandez, and I just did a quick search. Man, I didn't realize he was just never the same guy after that.
No, he was not.
His numbers were coming the other way in the previous couple years, but still, he was never even close to what he was, and he's out of the game at age 33. That's just, I never realized that had played that big a role in his career. I can't imagine if, you can just pick any number of guys that are going on this thing for the Cardinals and they come back and have a bad year and you go, well, they were never the same and never part of your franchise after you were planning on them being here for, I don't know, let's just say another 5-6 years. It is a huge risk with this thing. I've never really, I didn't get the, I'll be honest, I don't really watch that competition as much as I probably should. And part of it is it doesn't excite me like, a regular season baseball does. That's just me. I'm different from most, but I just kind of go, we don't have a competition where we got guys in mid-season form. They're all trying to get their way into it. I can appreciate that they all want to play for the countries and that thing. It just never really excited me all that much. I will watch more because of, like you said, the factor here is like, all right, let's see which guys played last night for the team here in St. Louis and make sure they all came out healthy. Somebody didn't get hit on the wrist, of a pitch getting away from somebody, or they get a collision at one of the bases and you got issues there, or running into a wall. I mean, there's just too much risk, I think, for this kind of thing. But it's MLB, man. They can sell it. They can make money off of it. So guess what? Everybody is told they're available for it unless told differently. So
I saved it for Rick Hummel, but I wanted to follow up on it. I think this situation with the Brewers and Corbin Burns can only be described as uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Surprising that the Brewers would actually take the tact that they did. But it's also very good for the St. Louis Cardinals, and it's very good for the Chicago Cubs because Corbin Burns ain't going to be a Brewer. I ain't saying that he's going to be traded this year, but the thing of it is, I mean, after 2024, he can become a free agent. So if you want to actually get the highest possible return from him, to me it would be this season, because the sooner he gets to his next team, the more they'll be willing to give up for him, because he will be under contract control for a longer period of time. Plus, there's the injury risk, and if you wait, I mean, Corbin Burns throws a lot of innings, and he throws hard, and he's a tough competitor. He wants the ball. He wants to get after it. So if you say, well, we're not going to trade him this year, and I don't know that the Brewers are actually saying that, but if, say, let's just say that that's their position right now. Well, no, we're going to try to win this year. We're not going to trade him this year. We'll revisit it after the season. Well, suppose it's not all that far-fetched. Pitchers get hurt, and we know that in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. But suppose the Brewers have a chance to trade him maybe this summer, and they decide not to, even though there's some great offers pouring in. I think they'd be really tempted. But anyway, let's suppose they hold on to him. Suppose he blows out an elbow next year. Then what? What are you going to get for him? So
yeah.
But I just have a hard time, and see, I don't want to hear, I like the Brewers franchise. I think the owner's good. I just have a hard time, though, understanding the logic here. Because, if you look back the last 2 seasons combined, and he did have a rough final month or so for the Brewers last year. His ERA was like final 10 starts, it was something like 4.6, but it's not like he was brutal, Maybe all the pitching that he's done the last couple of years, maybe it caught up with him a little bit. And also the team was out, and the team was pretty ticked off and demoralized anyway. It's one of the reasons why the Cardinals overtook them in the second half of the season. It was after the Hader trade that just really messed that team up in the head. So, but if you look at the last 2 seasons, I mean, in 2021 he won the Cy Young, and he was incredibly dominant. And then he had a really good season last year. Again, noting that down the stretch he wasn't very good, but that happens. Adam Wainwright wasn't very good in the final month either. So what? It happens to the best of them. But if you look at the last 2 seasons when he has started a game, and understand that run support for him has been an issue, lack of run support. But when he started a game the last 2 seasons, the Brewers were 39-22. In the last 2 seasons, among National League pitchers, 4th in innings, number 1 in wins above replacement, number 3 in ERA, number 2 in fielding independent ERA, also led the National League in strikeouts over the 2-year period. Hitters didn't do much against them. He kept the ball in the yard. He held them to a really low batting average. He didn't walk many. Dude's just a flat-out great pitcher, a true number 1. So I just don't understand, especially if you had designs in keeping them in your uniform, because they're going to try to sign one of their big 3, so to speak. He wanted $10.75 million, and they offered $10.01 million. And so let's just call it a difference of $750,000. Now, how much money will the Brewers and every major league team waste? How many times will they, in effect, waste $750,000? Like they sign an aging player who's not very good. It's kind of money. It's sunken cost. They pick up this guy. He's not very good. They get him in a trade, maybe a bullpen guy. He's not very good. Sunken cost, $750,000. I think all teams every year will have several of those guys at least, where it's like a $750,000 write-off. It's like, okay, we tried. It wasn't all that much money, which is the point. It wasn't all that much money, so we can absorb it. We can absorb the hit. Didn't work out. We thought it would. It didn't. We'll take the hit. But why would you relegate Corbin Burnes to the level of some $750,000 utility infielder that you're taking a chance on, or some setup reliever that you're taking a chance on, or a backup outfielder or a 4th outfielder that you're taking a chance on, that you're going to pay $1 million or less to, and if he doesn't work out, it's no big deal? Well, why would it have been a big deal to pay Corbin Burnes another $750,000 to keep him happy and motivated and to make him feel appreciated, instead of going to an arbitration hearing for over only $750,000, which is nothing in today's baseball economy, and to insult him to his face? From what they did, basically, is blame him for them not winning the division. And, talking about how bad he was at the end of the year. And Lord knows what else they found fault with when they got a top 5 starting pitcher in the major leagues. Like, what exactly are you ripping him for? I mean, I just think that this is absolutely crazy. And the other thing I don't understand, Jim, is it's a 3-person arbitration panel. One is generally pro-management, one is generally pro-players association, and one is supposedly neutral. How do you look at Corbin Burnes and the 2 years he's had back-to-back? And the durability has been beyond reproach, right?
Yep.
How do you look at that and you decide, oh, no, the Brewers are right? What? I mean, how do you not side in the favor of Corbin Burnes? It's not like he was asking for $13 million, and even if he did, so what? It's a difference of $750,000. and now he's ticked off at you forever. And his feelings are very much hurt. And no, he's not being a diaper baby. He should feel that way. And he took reporters through it, explaining how they kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, for the Brewers to come back and say, okay, man, let's just compromise. Let's just settle this, And they never did. He said what they did do is towards the end, before the arbitration hearing, they came to him and his agent and said, well, we're going to make you a 2-year offer. And Burns, the way he characterized it was a lowball thing that he never would have agreed to. So to him, it was like adding more insult on top of insult,
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do it? I just don't understand. Look, they can talk, oh, well, we're a small market, we're a medium market, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that. Again, we ain't talking about $7.5 million here as the sticking point. It's $750,000. And if you can't take care of your ace and one of the top 5 starters in baseball, sell the team. If that $750,000 is going to take you to your knees financially and break your franchise, sell the damn team. I mean, I just and you wonder why. And again, when we had the work stoppage, the lockout before the 2021 season, I'm always amazed that such a huge majority of fans support the owners, and it makes no sense to me. And I think this is another example of what I'm talking about. Why would you, after you destroyed your team's morale last year by trading the closer to save money, why would you come back, especially after you fall out of the playoffs? You don't make the playoffs. You lose the division by 7 games to the Cardinals, in part because your clubhouse was messed up by management's decision to part with Hader. Why would you now come back this offseason and alienate your ace over $750,000 to tick him off in a way where that wound is never going to heal? He's close enough to free agency where he's just going to pitch his tail off, and the Brewers will benefit from that. But he's going to pitch his tail off, and then he's going to cash in with a franchise that actually appreciates him. I don't understand the thought process here.
When I watched his little conversation with the media, I mean, it was obvious he was an angry individual. And, he walked you through the process, as you said. But the one thing that stood out to me, he purposely said, you put 7 years in the organization. 2 in the minors and 5 here at the major league level, and this is kind of what I got. And when he put it that way, I was like, this man will be gone the first chance he gets to get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
There is no way to replace that. And to your point, the dollar figure is so small on the grand scheme of things. I mean, they wasted money on guys left and right for that kind of money. We're going to try this. No, it didn't work out, like you said. Craig Counsell may have the hardest job in this division coming up this year because he's got to try and fix that clubhouse. I always liked him as a manager, but he's got to fix what took place at the end of last year, and now this thing is going to do nothing but fester early on. He's got to find a way to get everybody back on the same page. Brewers are kind of on a teeter-totter right here. They could go south fast if things get out of control up there. I mean, we've talked about them, how they've been very good at making decisions over the years, and they get credit for guys like Adames and Rowdy Tellez, but you took off the wrong guys, the pitchers, the guys who you without that you got nothing. I like you. I was really puzzled, and if you're a Cardinal fan, you go, oh hey, good. The Brewers are kind of self-destructing. Good for them.
And listen, I believe Burns in this. I totally do, because I watched everything that he said, and even though he was obviously very angry and disappointed, he was composed, he was thoughtful, he was poised. He did not get personal at all, but he was just honest about his feelings. And one thing he said jumped out at me. It's not only that the Brewers refused to, pay him what I thought was a reasonable request, or it's not that the Brewers, came back and said, hey, we'll get, we want to get closer to what you want. They didn't do that. But according to Burns, and again, I repeat, I believe him because I know how baseball management works. Even though they managed for whatever reason to be able to fool fans. And my theory has always been the people that always side with the owners, they're just jealous because they think they should be in the major leagues as a ball player, so they hate players. And there's a lot of that going around. There really is.
Yes.
It's kind of funny. Nolan Gorman being one of them, and he ain't even making any money yet. He said this is Burns, he said a day or two before the hearing, they came at us with a 2-year deal that was really poor. And he mentioned that from the deadline day, we knew they were going to go to a hearing, and the lack of them trying to get a deal done is what got us to this point. He said leading up to the deadline, we were much closer than what was filed at. The number was a lot smaller than $740,000, but they actually did some things that my agency said they've never seen before as far as leading up to the deadline. In translation, he said, real quick, I'm sorry. As you negotiate, you're getting closer and closer, and then I think it's about Eastern time, midnight Eastern time on the deadline day, but they basically lowered their offer from where they were, and it made the gap even bigger than what was filed. We were closer to getting a deal done, but then there was no willingness to come up on their part, and he claims they actually lowered it. So why? Okay, you're entitled to, on principle, stand with your offer and say, well, we really believe this is what his value is right now. But then to come back late in the game before the deadline and stick it to him, go out of your way to kind of spit on the dude?
Yeah. Ooh.
Like, what?
That's awful.
And people in our town think that DeWitt and Mozeliak are the twin demons or something. You know, I mean, it's amazing. They do make the Cardinals look good. I will say that. They made them look bad for a while because they were beating the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals were outspending them. But the Brewers are strange, man. And this has got to make the Cubs really happy because, heck, they'd be the first team trying to sign Corbin Burns as a free agent. And the fact that the Cubs they're interested in competing now, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So this makes them happy, too. If the Brewers want to screw up what they have for some stupid reason, well, that's on them. You know, good luck fading back into the abyss where you're totally irrelevant, if that's where this is headed. Probably not, because they have some good prospects.